Welcome to Pleasure Uprising. I'm Dr. Laura Juergens, intimacy coach, somatic practitioner, and your guide to getting out of your head and into your body, your desire, and your real capacity for connection. This show is for people who are done performing and ready to actually feel it. Let's go. Welcome to today's episode. So today we are going to talk about what makes a great lover, and specifically based on actual research, the 8 traits that make a great lover. So we all absorbed a version of what makes a great lover or what a great lover looks like in our subconscious without ever explicitly being taught that. We absorb a lot of cultural ideals from just existing as often early as childhood. And the version that most of us have from living and swimming in the culture that we swim in is that there is this sort of ideal who is spontaneous, confident. They have perfect technique. They have the quote unquote culturally perfect body and looks. They give their partner this like mind-blowing orgasm every time that looks like, screaming and just like, maybe shaking and crying. They inspire passion that looks fast and like furiously ripping clothes off like it does in the movies. And the reason it looks so much in our subconscious like it does in the movies is because it's a lot of where it comes from is media, film, romance novels, porn, and just this enormous cultural silence around sex that means it never gets corrected with reality. And it's not anybody's fault for having this sort of default superhero sexual master, great lover in our heads that is wrong. It's not our fault for having it wrong. But it is up to us to correct it because a lot of times we are comparing ourselves or our lovers against a standard that is just not accurate. And when we do that, we really miss out on what really makes a good lover, a great lover, and the fact that we can learn it, that we don't have to have really any of those traits. So Dr. Peggy Kleinplatz, she's a professor at the University of Ottawa, director of the Optimal Sexual Experiences Research Team. She spent years interviewing people having extraordinary sex and asking them what made the difference. So her study is this largest in-depth interview research ever conducted on people having what she calls magnificent sex. It's across ages, bodies, sexual orientations, relationship lengths, and cultures. And they were English speaking. What they had in common looked almost nothing like the list that most of us have subconsciously absorbed. The things that we tend to assume matter most turned out to be minor components, not completely irrelevant in all cases, but not the engine. And the things that actually make someone a truly magnificent lover are learnable. And very few people are actually talking about them or teaching them. But some of us, it's exactly what we do. And I was so tickled and not surprised to find out that so much of this is exactly what I teach. So I want to talk about today, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what the research actually found and versus what we assume by default, right? And we're going to talk about these 8 qualities that Dr. Kleinplatz identified and what is really important to notice about this list. And we're going to talk about why it matters for desire, including low desire. And I'll give you a little reflection exercise to close. So let's dive into this. When we really want to get under the hood about, okay, what are some of the assumptions that most of us carry around by default? And they're the ones that I mentioned, right? This physical performance assumption that there's technique and stamina and the quote unquote right moves, right? Most of us have some version of all of these kind of assumptions, but they might be different for each person depending on kind of how you were raised and where and what exactly you were exposed to, right? What got in there into this, what this ideal lover looks like. But something about physical performance, right, tends to be in there in the subconscious for most of us. There is also this idea of spontaneous chemistry. It should just happen, attraction and passion, and that should be the way that we notice that we are attracted to someone, and it should be persistent in long-term relationships. This is that happily ever after thing where they're like super into each other and they're like always that into each other and it always feels exactly the same. And of course, sometimes the other trope that is in our subconscious is that it's either there or it's not. Like it's either that there's attraction and passion there or it like dies and that means the relationship is never going to be recovered. The sexual relationship will never have chemistry anymore. So it's just this idea that there's this magical force and it doesn't require any work and it doesn't require any communication. It doesn't come and go, and it's not state dependent on how that person feels that day. None of this is actually true, right? But this is the fantasy. This is the fantasy of a great lover, that they sort of can inspire this spontaneous chemistry in us. The third one is that there is this pleasure level that gets unlocked by the great lover, that they're the ones who can unlock this amazing orgasm that is longer and bigger and louder, right, than anything we've ever discovered on our own or with someone else. They have the capacity to unlock this. And this is often subconsciously something that people are hoping to validate in themselves by really being vigilant about trying to make sure their partner does this. Can put a lot of performance pressure on your partner if you're expecting them to show you that you are the ideal and perfect lover with some sort of extremely demonstrative orgasm. But this is often subconsciously going on for most of us because we believe that that's what a great, quote unquote, great lover looks like or can do. So number 4 is this idea of looking perfect, having porn style genitals, having a, movie star style face, right? Having just whatever the right body is. That one stands for itself. I think most people are aware that we're carrying around this subconscious construct about this and comparing ourselves to it. But, hey, there it is. Let's call it out. Another assumption that we've absorbed is that this like bodice ripping kind of fast, urgent, like tearing each other's clothes off is how passion looks. That real passion doesn't exist if you don't have that urgency and that quickness. That is a very convenient thing to show as a cinematographer or a filmmaker. It is very convenient to show that particular type of passion because it's really obvious to people and it doesn't take a lot of screen time out of the rest of your narrative arc. But it's actually not the most common type of passion. And it's not the way most people, and especially most women's bodies, actually respond, and not the way arousal works for most people. It can be a component of the sort of drug state that is new relationship energy, but it's not even that most of the time for people. Most people are not actually really ripping each other's clothes off at any point in time, no matter how turned on they are. So that is something that is just like a false narrative that's put out there that many people are expecting or hoping because that's what their brain interprets as this is what turn on looks like. So all of these things, they are minor components that can occur at times for some people. They can be nice or useful or pleasant for some people, but they are not what separates great lovers from everyone else, according to this giant study. So here's what the research actually found. The 8 qualities of truly magnificent lovers, according to the research. All right, here they are. Buckle up. Number 1 is a person who is present and embodied, actually in their body, in the room, not mentally running through tomorrow's to-do list, not thinking about something that happened yesterday, in the present moment with you, with us, with their partner. Embodied in their body, feeling their own sensations, present with themselves, right? Sex is one of the few forces that actually can pull some people who are not present at any other times in their life into the present moment. But this is also a quality you can cultivate outside of the bedroom, being present and embodied, and it's completely learnable. Isn't that great? That is good news. In fact, all of these, really good news. You do not have to have any of that other list in order to be a great lover. So number 1 is present and embodied. Number 2, capable of deep connection. So one of the things that really came out from her research was that people said that the lovers who had this like sense of alignment and merging with their partner, they were reported as being great lovers. The partners were actually saying, hey, I can feel our nervous systems meeting, right? Like I can feel our souls connecting, becoming a sense of being of something bigger than yourself, a sense of joining and connection. And the capacity to be able to do that is far more indicative of being a great lover than this like spontaneous chemistry business. The capacity for deep connection, not fast connection, deep connection. And remember, this can take time, and that's okay. That is also something that you can learn. And I teach it all the time in my sessions with clients, like all the time. Because everybody has the capacity for deep connection, but some of us we've had our attempts at connection either, early on in life or later in life really shut down, and we've maybe shut down and created some protective mechanisms around, protecting ourselves and holding ourselves back, performing, not being really, really open to connection, or not feeling like we deserve it or we're worthy of it or that it's available to us. And healing that allows you to create this, which also incidentally feels great to you and your partner. So that's cool. So number 1, present embodied. Number 2, capable of deep connection. The third quality she found for magnificent lovers is a quality of being able to actually engage in erotic intimacy. And so this is the sense of feeling known in eroticism, where you're in this adult space where you get to touch parts of yourself you don't show the rest of the world, where you get to actually like be your erotic self, and that they're able to do that and able to engage with it with a partner. So I think that's really special and really important. And that's intimacy. That's erotic intimacy, not just like smoke and mirrors, right? This isn't just, going to the sex store and getting the stuff that makes it look like you're being erotic. This is actually being able to engage in erotic intimacy in order to, the way that the survey respondents described it was, feeling known in places in this adult space, feeling known in the bedroom in a way that you're not elsewhere. All right. Number 4, they had extraordinary communication, able to do real feedback, able to receive it and give it. Real, not defensive, no shutting down, open communication when somebody wants something different, not protecting your partner from the truth that you need something different and then wondering why nothing changes, right? Not avoiding offering feedback or avoiding receiving feedback by deflecting it with defensiveness. They're really open communicators, and the people having the best sex in the world are the ones who are talking about it, asking about it, changing what's not working learning from it and doing better. It's not that they got it exactly right the first time. That wasn't even an expectation that came up in the survey. The great lovers were the ones who were open to feedback, who wanted it, who received it well, who were encouraging about it, and who offered it to others to say, oh, this is what I like. Can you do this a little bit more next time? Right? Extraordinary communication. Again, totally learned. Just like the erotic intimacy, the deep connection, the presence and embodied, extraordinary communication is something you can learn. So that's really great, right? That means you don't have to just be magically born with this. All right, number 5, and I think this is really telling and probably pretty obvious when you think about it, related to the other ones. The great lovers were authentic. They were actually being themselves, not performing or managing an image. And interestingly, it seems really logical when you think about it that yes, we do want somebody who's actually being themselves. But then when we think about all this like subconscious stuff that we think about the perfect lover or whatever, most of it's very performative. Like our subconscious assumes that we need to be having this physical performance. Everything needs to look just right. We need to like look perfect. It's all this like performative shit. And in actuality, the data, the people who are having amazing sex and saying, this is the quality of the person that is absolutely helping me get there, the great lovers are actually authentic, which means they also have the freedom to say, I don't know why I like this, but I do. This is my thing. This is something I love, right? And I think it's so important to sit with authenticity as a quality, not as something additional to perform. You cannot perform it. You can't perform authenticity. You have to actually find it. And I think what we have to do is we have to allow it. We have to allow ourselves. What it means is allowing yourself to be yourself. And to do that, you need to figure out who the fuck that is, right? You need to like be open and curious with yourself, not judging yourself, right? Just be, who am I? What do I like? What is unique to me? What do I share? And not shaming it, right? So it really takes being willing to be yourself. And people can tell you, oh, hey, just be yourself or whatever that means. Most of us don't know how to do it. We can get there. We can learn. But a lot of it's just unlearning. A lot of it's unlearning the shame, unlearning the stuff that's in our way, unlearning all the things that we've told ourselves that don't allow us to actually feel like it's okay to be ourselves or that it's safe to be ourselves. Quick break. If you are listening to this show, something in your intimate life may not be where you want it to be. And if you've been trying to think or talk your way through it and it's not quite working, that's not a you problem. That's just a method problem. I made a free guide to help called Get Out of Your Head, a starter guide to releasing the pressure, shame, and shoulds around intimacy. It has some reflection exercises that go deeper than anything you'll typically find in a freebie, and most people feel something shift after just the first one. So go grab it at laurajurgens.com/guide, and the link is in the show notes. Learning that we are enough exactly as we are. You are enough exactly as you are. And when you learn that, then you can be authentic, right? Then you can relax in that. And I think it's the foundation of so much else on this list. I don't think you can be present and embodied when you're performing. I don't think you can be open to feedback when you're not being authentic because you're terrified of getting it wrong, right? Real authenticity often takes some support to get right, which sounds maybe kind of weird, but it's been very true in my experience of learning to be more authentic. I really needed enough support and enough care around me so that I could feel like it was okay for me to just be who I was. And most people start coaching with me have no idea how to actually find their authentic self. And if they spot it, they tend to minimize it or cover it up or make it not enough. And so it's one of the primary things that we work on. And you can work on that with other people too. But I want to encourage you to work on it with somebody. All right. So number 5 was authentic. Number 6, I also think requires authenticity because number 6 is vulnerable. And the way that the research is summarized. It's, it came out as vulnerable and open to surrender. And this means everyone, including men and people socialized as males, right? The willingness to let go of control, even briefly. And in the bedroom, when you are actually engaged in sex and you are being authentic and you are being present, it is a vulnerable space. And if we're being honest, which is part of all that, we have to admit that it is vulnerable. And that's okay. That's actually brave and strong and wonderful and beautiful. And it allows that real deep connection, which is on that list too. Vulnerability and the ability to surrender. All right, number 7, curious, playful, and fun. So that kind of quality of curiosity, playfulness, fun, willingness to try new things, laugh when something goes wrong, not turn sex into a performance review, right? Let it be goofy, let it be awkward sometimes, and just play and have it be adult play. That was number 7, and I think that one's so important and what so many people want but aren't having, right? That can also be learned. And it's a lot easier to do when you do all these other things that we talked about on this list, because I know it sometimes sounds almost contradictory, like could I be vulnerable and playful at the same time? But yes, you can. And that's the magic, right? That's the magic place when you can be yourself and vulnerable and playful, because your deep true self is probably both vulnerable and playful like everybody else. We are animals at the end of the day, y'all. All right. Number 8 is open to transcendence. And I thought that was a really interesting one. So this is a sense of touching something larger, a sense of learning this kind of having an open portal to things that about yourself and your partner that you genuinely can't access anywhere else, a bit of a spiritual flavor to the sexuality, and having it be amazing and beautiful and kind of mind-blowing, right? And allowing that to be present in your sexuality because you have all these other things, because you have been embodied and present and open to connection and joyful and playful. I think where the open to transcendence comes from is from enabling all those other things. All of a sudden we can reach this place that allows us to be really quite spiritual in our pleasure. And that's beautiful. So those were the 8 things. And I want you to notice that nothing on it requires a particular age, body type, looks, a specific technique, or moves, right? Everything on the list about how to be a great lover, according to the largest study done on this, is about how you show up as a person with yourself in a moment open to someone else. And all of it is learnable. And I think that's why, so what I noticed was that Dr. Kleinplatz also says something that I say to clients all the time, which is that, and this is about low desire. So if you have quote unquote low desire, the cure for low desire isn't just more desire for the sex you're already having. That is almost never the right approach. And that's what people are trying to do, is they're trying to like force themselves to have more desire for the sex they're already having. The cure is more desirable sex, which means all these 8 things, not more performance. It does not mean performing more. It means ramping up all of these 8 things in your sex life with your partner so that what you're having is something that you want, not trying to force yourself to want more of something that you don't want. And most people who say they don't want sex are actually saying they don't want sex. They don't want the sex that they're already having. Typically because what's on offer isn't including most of what's on this list. So when we're taught, and that's not their partner's fault or their fault, it's just how we're socialized around sex in our culture is very performative, and it's very not in line with any of these great qualities. So we got to unlearn that stuff and relearn how to just connect with our true selves and each other, because we are taught to perform and not to be present. I think most of us know that from experience. We often have this internal checklist rather than real embodiment. And we've gotten misinformation the whole way From the time we came into this world, we've gotten misinformation about sexuality. And even just from an absence of talking about it, that it's something to be hidden or ashamed of. Nobody really teaches us how to be the kind of person who shows up to have great sex the way great lovers do in most of our life, which is why I even have a job, why I decided to do this job, because I needed to learn it. But the good news is that that you can close that gap, right? All of these traits are learnable. And I think that is just wonderful news. So I want to recommend, if you want to read more about this study and the people that were interviewed and their stories, everything in it everything we talk about today is in the book Magnificent Sex by Peggy Kleinplatz. Why do I have such a hard time saying her name? I'm sorry, Peggy. Kleinplatz. There's an extra L that I wasn't expecting. It is genuinely useful. I do think that book is really helpful for like, where am I heading, right? Like all books. Books are not going to help you implement. They're going to help you know what you don't know or see where you want to go. When you are ready to learn how to get from where you're at to there, then when you're ready to implement, reach out to me or someone else that you trust to help you get there, because chances are you are going to need some help to recognize what's in your way. And most of that stuff is not super conscious and easy to dismantle. So the link for the book is in the show notes. I want to just recap all of those 8 qualities for you. And when I do that, I'm going to invite you to do this little reflection with me, which is to listen to this list and pick the one quality that feels most out of reach in your sex life right now. The one that feels farthest from really feeling like you've got this. Not the one you wish you could perform better, but the one that genuinely feels like unavailable or unfamiliar. And I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, what would need to shift for even a small amount of that quality to become possible for you? Not for your lover. We're not trying to change somebody else right now. And this is not an action item or a mission you have to accept. It's just something to notice. What would you need to shift in order to have more of that quality for yourself right now? If you chose to work on that, that's something that might be really worth your while for you. Okay, so let's go through those 8 again real quick. Present and embodied, capable of deep connection, erotic intimacy, able to do erotic intimacy, extraordinary communication, authenticity, vulnerability and surrender, curious, playful, and fun, and open to transcendence. Those are the 8. What of those feels like maybe this is the one that feels most unfamiliar to me, and I could actually take a look at that? Okay, my dears, I'll see you here next week. Hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this show, I want to invite you to check out one of my favorite things that I've ever created. It's a free guide called Get Out of Your Head, a starter guide to releasing the pressure, shame, and shoulds around intimacy. It has 4 reflection exercises that go deeper than anything you'll find in a typical freebie, and most people feel a shift just after part 1. So go grab it at laurajurgens.com/guide. The link is in the show notes. And if you're ready to find out what your specific path looks like, I'd love to talk to you. Booking info is also in the show notes, and I will see you here next week.